Obviously, history being made today as well. And welcome in presidential historian Doug Wead, former advisor to President George H.W. Bush and author of Inside Trump's White House, the real story of his presidency. And also back with us, New York Times bestselling author and presidential historian and Newsmax analyst Craig Shirley. Doug, Craig, thanks so much for being with us.
Thanks for having me.
And Doug, we'll have to get you involved in me and Craig's Week That Was segments. We always take a historical look at the biggest stories of the week, and obviously this is the biggest story. Doug, so much was made about Joe Biden's age during the election, and that Kamala Harris would be one heartbeat away from the presidency, but maybe closer than anyone else in the vice presidential seat there. But I was also reminded today, seeing Dan Quayle on that stage and other former vice presidents who don't make it to that post, historical, yes, this is an important day, but doesn't mean she's going to be president.
No, it doesn't. But I tell you what, I'm going to be watching the politics of this very closely. I remember personally how it felt working for George H.W. Bush at a time in the last months of the Reagan presidency. Now, Reagan was a great president, and the people who worked for him were so proud at the end of the Cold War, and I was proud of him. But he was a lame duck president at that point. He couldn't run for office again. And the staffers, the people on Reagan's staff, started coming over to us and whispering, what does the vice president think? They wanted a job. They knew that the vice president was running and he could be president again, and they didn't want to leave the White House with Reagan, who was going to retire. And all those feelings came back when I thought, Joe Biden, 78 years old, he's a lame duck president. He's very likely not going to run for president at the age of 82. And what that means is that Kamala Harris is much more powerful than the average vice president. And I wouldn't be surprised if some of Biden's staffers start slipping across the hall and saying, what does the vice president want done? And I wouldn't be surprised if Jill Biden gets her back up and the loyalists under Biden resent it. So we'll see how that relationship develops.
One historical truth about Washington, D.C. is ambition is never stationary, right? It is always a moving thing. So an important perspective there. Craig, we actually talked about this when we were wrapping up 2020, a lot of talk about it being the worst year ever. But we mentioned at the onset of this segment the Lincoln inaugural addresses, Joe Biden obviously quoting Abraham Lincoln today, kind of, paying homage to that fact. When we look at this inauguration years down the road from now, how do you think it will be described?
This inaugural address?
Yes, not the address itself, but everything surrounding it, the security situation, the address as part of it.
This address itself, sure, John. I think it will go down as one of the most forgetful inaugural addresses we've ever heard. It was a series of shallow bromides and cliches strung together. It really wasn't a very good speech, whatever, either in terms of style, like John Kennedy, or substance in terms of Ronald Reagan. It was just thin gruel is what it really was.
Yeah, and this has been a springboard, of course, for previous presidents, Doug, here. And, Craig is not the first person on this program to talk about how the speech was trite and hollow and filled with cliches and didn't resonate with a lot of people. Forgetful, sure. Did it do any damage, though, because it, according to Craig's assessment and others who we've had on this program, it wasn't great?
Do any damage? How could
maybe a better way to say that would be a missed opportunity.
Definitely that. But how can he do any damage? He's got the national media in his pocket. They won't ask him a question. What kind of milkshake is that? Chocolate or vanilla? I mean, it's the most absurd and ridiculous relationship with the media I've ever seen. They might as well be on his staff. So, no, it's not going to hurt him with the national media. I thought he did have one good line about the possibility of and the opportunity of power. And I thought that was a pretty good line that he had going. But as I step back and look at this inauguration, which I think what you were asking, it's surreal. It's like science fiction. The fences are coming down on the border with Mexico. Come on in. You can come in free of charge. But the fences are going up around Joe Biden. Good news, you can be an American. Bad news, you're not going to be able to see him inaugurated because they don't want you in Washington. So it's very, very interesting.
Maybe some other history made today, and again, this is just my opinion here, but the Garth Brooks Amazing Grace rendition, it's very hard to remember any speech, I think, after that. That was a very powerful moment.
Yes.
And, you know, I always get a little misty on Inauguration Day. I was curious what would make me do that today. I got a little misty during that point. I'm glad I wasn't on camera personally. You might have seen a side of me I don't like to show people. But Craig, great to see you as always, Doug. We appreciate your historical perspective as always. Thanks so much.
Thanks, John.
My friends are calling me all the time and writing me and saying, "You've disappeared from television. We can't find you. We don't see you anymore." This is the only way we've figured out how to beat the censors. If you subscribe to this channel, hit the subscribe button and then hit the bell, you'll get notification when I'm on TV. Otherwise, you won't get my Instagrams, my messages on Facebook. It's censorship. So I want to hear from you. I want you to be able to hear from me.